activity on the I Love CVille network. Give the show a like and a share. If you could do me the favor of hitting the like button now, please. And even better, sharing it to your friends. Tag a friend in the comment section. Someone who loves Charlottesville, Central Virginia, likes to hear news about the community, wants to become more informed. Tag a friend. Hit the like button. Share it. A lot we're going to cover on the program, including the potential demise of the movie business and how it could impact Charlottesville. I don't know if you saw this, but the folks at Warner Brothers are releasing movies next year in movie theaters and on streaming services at the same time. So what's the point of going to a movie theater if you can sit on your couch and stream the release in the comfort of your home, having a beverage, et cetera, as opposed to waiting in line outside of theater? What's that going to do for Stonefield, 5th Street Station, and the downtown mall? That story is going to be the lead of the program on the I Love CVille show. We have the city considering the closure of public parks. We have the Grand Illumination tonight. A COVID vaccine in Charlottesville by December 15th, we hope. Cross your fingers. The vaccine is in CVille by the 15th of this month. Folks, that's in 10 days. We have a huge mental giant on the program in Manu Delgado-Medrano. I'm going to ask him to pronounce his name. Manu, I hope I'm not messing it up too much. Manu is a smart guy, an independent consultant and researcher, an economic and financial analyst, a focus on real estate. We'll talk real estate with Manu on the program. Give the show a like and a share anywhere you're watching, and we'll have a good time on the program today. Judah, we can start when you're ready. Good Friday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille show. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. It's good to be with you right before the weekend with a major development hitting in what Warner Brothers is doing. Warner Brothers will simultaneously release all of its 2021 movies on HBO Max and in movie theaters. This is going to be the lead of today's program. We'll put it to a side for now. I'm going to ask you this question. If Warner Brothers releases all of its movies in 2021 on a streaming service like HBO Max that you could watch through Apple TV, Roku, Fire Stick, whatever it may be, why would we go to the movies again in person when we can sit on our couch, have an alcoholic beverage, eat some food, hit pause to go to the bathroom, et cetera? Did Warner Brothers just kill in-person movies? And taking it a step further, did it damage the shops at Stonefield, 5th Street Station, and the downtown mall? All three locations very reliant on movie theaters driving foot traffic for shopping and for restaurants. That's going to be the lead of the show. We also have to talk about this. The city of Charlottesville is going to close potentially its public parks and outdoor facilities due to COVID-19. How is that going to impact the community? We have the Grand Illumination tonight on the downtown mall. It's going to air on NBC 29 at 7 o'clock. The Staunton Mall will be, in fact, destroyed and will be converted into a mixed-use development. Is that the future of Fashion Square Mall in Albemarle County? We have a mental giant on the program today to talk real estate, zoning, planning, economics. He's going to join us in about 20 minutes on the program. Folks, Richmond City schools are looking like they are going to stay virtual through the entire 2020 and 2021 school year. How will that impact the rest of the Commonwealth and its school systems? Grades are low because of virtual learning. I'm going to put in perspective just how low grades are because of COVID and learning through Zoom. will spotlight Montgomery County, Virginia, and its school system and the number of D's and F's students are earning or not earning in a virtual learning environment. We'll take a look at college football, Boston College at UVA, Clemson at Virginia Tech. The Virginia High School League is reversing course with its new rules with lacrosse. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, we let you know the Virginia High School League was going to ban, because of COVID-19, it was going to disallow face-offs and body checking, two critical tactics and strategies that are important to lacrosse. VHSL says, not so fast, maybe we made a mistake, and Augusta County is delaying winter sports. Welcome to the program. Tell a friend about the show. Give it a like, give it a share. We're live on the I Love CVille network, folks. We'll give some love to Interstate Pest and Service Companies, truly a home's best friend. More than 50 years of servicing this community, Interstate Pest and Service Companies. Folks, if you have a business downtown, if you have a business in the shops at Stonefield, if you have a business in 5th Street Station, you got to be asking yourself, what did Warner Brothers just do for foot traffic in the shopping center? Yesterday, Warner Brothers, number 2 in the movie space globally, Warner Brothers yesterday said in 2021, it will simultaneously release movies at brick and mortar movie theaters at the same time it releases its movies on HBO Max. That means you can watch any movie in 2021 that's tied to the Warner Brothers studio at the comfort of your home through HBO Max on Apple TV, Roku, Fire Stick, as opposed to getting in your vehicle, going to a box office at Stonefield, 5th Street Station, or the downtown mall, buying tickets, spending money on soda and popcorn, waiting in line, sitting in a movie theater with strangers, inhaling and exhaling the same COVID air, and rather going through that entire process, you can sit at the home of your comfort of your couch. Now, my friend Judah Wickhauer, who's the director of this program, he and his family love going to movie theaters. I see Judah on the other side of this screen nodding his head like, come on, man. People love going to movies. It's an experience. And he makes a good point. There's few things I enjoy more than going to a really good movie, getting some popcorn, sitting next to a friend or a loved one, and watching something on the silver screen, and for 2 hours being surrounded by Dolby sound and sitting in a reclined chair in an elevated arena. Maybe it's an IMAX type of experience. But I need everyone to understand what's happening. TVs at home are better than they've ever been. Sound systems at home are better than they've ever been. The crystal clear viewing of televisions, better than they've ever been. And streaming services allow us to pause movies in real time, fill up our cup, get more wine, get more beer, get some more bourbon in our cup, hit the head, and come back on a couch. And folks are more petrified than ever of being around strangers and certainly being inside during COVID-19. Warner Brothers may have, with yesterday's announcement, marginalized movie theaters and shopping centers that host those movie theaters across America. And the shopping centers that have movie theaters are often the shopping centers that have the highest price per square foot, because movie theaters, much like grocery stores, are draws or flagship tenants that bring people to the location. When you think 5th Street Station, you think Wegmans first, then you think Alamo Drafthouse. When you think Stonefield, you think Trader Joe's first, then you think the Regal movie theater. When you think the downtown mall, you think the Pavilion first, and then you think the movie theater. So if movie theaters have been marginalized by Warner Brothers making the decision to release all movies in 2021 on streaming HBO Max at the same time it does its movie theaters, what is that going to do to Stonefield, 5th Street Station, and the downtown mall? What is that going to do to rents moving forward? What's that going to do to foot traffic moving forward? These are fair questions that will 100% be the topic of conversation in 2021, but we're just bringing it to you here in December 2020 because we're staying on the cusp of things. Give me your thoughts, your perspective. Put them in the feed. Now's the time to do it. Did Warner Brothers effectively just crush the movie business by releasing 2021 movies on HBO Max at the same time it releases it in brick and mortar movie theaters? You look at the stocks of the movie theater businesses, the AMCs of the world, and they're down today. Now, folks, the next story I'm following closely on the I Love CVille show is city leadership potentially closing city parks and city facilities due to COVID-19 and the restrictions to in-person gathering. This is a sad story. This is not a good story. City parks, city facilities, the opportunities to do things for free. For free. Going to a park in the city costs you no money. The last thing we need to be doing in a COVID-19 world where people are depressed, demoralized, disturbed, and downtrodden because they're spending more time in home and quarantine and away from people, more time inside and less time away from sunshine and energy and human connection. The last thing we need is to rid the community of free opportunity to do things outside. Closing public parks and public facilities in COVID in the city of Charlottesville is going to impact our folks that don't have the disposable income to pay to do stuff. ACAC is not going to close. Boar's Head's not going to close. Glenmore, Farmington, Spring Creek, they're not going to close. Greencroft is not going to close. So the people with money have an opportunity to do things outside because they can afford to pay for it. The city of Charlottesville saying, we're going to potentially close public parks. Who's that going to affect? Who's that going to impact? What's that going to do from an emotional standpoint? Sunshine is good for the soul. Human connection is good for the soul. And closing public parks is only going to negatively impact quality of life and cause more depression at a time when depression is already rampant because of quarantine and COVID. I don't like that move by city leadership. Keep them open and allow people to go outside. You're outside. That's what you're supposed to do in COVID. Be outside. Fresh air. Why would you shut them down? City leadership makes no sense. Not an ounce of sense to me. The Grand Illumination is tonight, folks. You can watch it on CW29 at 6 o'clock, on NBC29 at 7 p.m. The Grand Illumination is a time where Charlottesville, in a non-COVID world, gathers together on the downtown mall for the lighting of a massive Christmas tree. We have music. We have fellowship. We have cheer, cocktails, conversation, and just an epitome of everything that's awesome of this community is this Grand Illumination. This year, we enjoy it via television and via NBC29 because of COVID-19. You'll see performances and the lighting of Charlottesville's Christmas tree on the downtown mall. Give it a watch. This is like the Macy's Day Parade for Charlottesville, Virginia. That's what this is right here. Give it a watch. 6 o'clock on CW29, 7 p.m. on NBC29, and of course, streaming on NBC29.com. How about some positive news for you? A COVID vaccine could hit Charlottesville, Virginia, and Central Virginia by December 15th. Look at the screen. Instagram. Look. This is positive. I try to relay positive information on this platform. December 15th, we may have the early stage of this vaccine. It's going to go to the front line first. The governor, in his press conference earlier this week, said it's going to roll out this month, the vaccine. It'll go to the doctors, the nurses, the frontline folks, the people in nursing homes. Every month, more vaccines available, more vaccines ubiquitous and approachable. Positive. We have 120 days of tough sledding. After that, light, glimmer, hope, spring, warmth, sunshine, vaccine, human connection, normalcy. You heard Bill Gates yesterday, founder of Microsoft, billionaire, said it's going to be a dogfight for 4 days. Spring is the glimpse and glimmer of returning to normalcy in 2021. Vaccines in Charlottesville, middle of December. 10 days from now, smile. The tide is turning. Smile. Wilson Ritchie, the restaurateur, the man behind the Whiskey Jar. Wilson Ritchie, the man behind, helped start the Alley Light, helped start the Pie Chess. Wilson Ritchie launched Revolutionary Soup, launched the Wine Guild. I mean, just the Bebedero, just a talented restaurateur, Wilson Ritchie. Wilson Ritchie and his team at the Whiskey Jar have launched a genius new concept that I want to celebrate on this program. And it's called the Whiskey Society of Central Virginia. The Whiskey Society of Central Virginia. Someone tag Wilson Ritchie and let him know I'm giving him some props on this program. So I'm going to go right now to Wilson Ritchie's Facebook page. Judah, you have that on screen. Do you not, my friend?
I did.
You did. Let's get it back on screen. So the Whiskey Society of Central Virginia was revealed by Wilson Ritchie, the proprietor of the Whiskey Jar, in a Facebook post earlier today. He says, "Hello, friends. After 9 years of doing the Whiskey Jar, we are finally starting a whiskey club. We want this club to be bigger than the Whiskey Jar, and we are calling it the Whiskey Society of Central Virginia. We will be launching this on Monday, but I just wanted to offer it to those I know first. We want it to be a small group starting out, so membership will be limited. Most of the details are now on our website below, but there will be lots more to do and taste beyond what we can list. If you're a whiskey enthusiast, I hope you will join. We wanted to get this out before Christmas, as I think it might make a really nice gift. Cheers and be well." From Wilson Ritchie. I love the idea. I love the idea when Patty Zeller did it, when she created the Bark Boxes, the monthly membership club where she's putting product that she curates herself as the Dog Scout in a box and sells that box to you for about $30. It has close to $100 in value. I love when she launched that concept. I love when Wilson Ritchie launched the Whiskey Society of Central Virginia. It's taking a business like the Whiskey Jar that I love already, and it's making it even more dynamic than it already is. Here you have an opportunity, much like the Wine Club of Keswick Vineyards. You sign up for that club, every month you get a couple of bottles, 2, 3, 4 bottles in the mail. You try product you otherwise would not try. You try whiskeys you otherwise will not try. What do you think he's going to do? I'm going to spitball with you. Here's the Whiskey Club of Central Virginia. Guess what, Whiskey Club of Central Virginia? We're going to do a nice whiskey pairing dinner at the Whiskey Jar on a Tuesday night in January and February when business is slow. You like the whiskeys, you're getting them in the mail? How about we pair them with some nice barbecue? How about we pair them with a nice protein, a 3 or 4 course meal, $80 on a Tuesday when we're slow, Central Virginia Whiskey Club. Enjoy that brown liquor with a little protein at our restaurant on a slow night. Right? How about new releases? How about the brands that the Whiskey Jar works with and spotlights and features at its bar? Maybe it wants to do a special tasting. Who gets first crack and first dibs at that special tasting? The Central Virginia Whiskey Club. Guys, during a time of great hardship comes impressive innovation. And when brick and mortar pet stores change their entire model and move during COVID from McIntyre to Ix Park like Animal Connection has done. When brick and mortar pet stores release same-day delivery to compete and beat Amazon and Chewy like Animal Connection has done. When brick and mortar pet stores release monthly boxes, membership boxes, where you can pay $29.95 and get $80 of value, that's called pivoting and innovation. When restaurants that are known for barbecue and whiskey on the downtown mall create clubs to make the model more dynamic, to drive engagement and membership, and to keep the brand top of mind, that's called innovation, pivoting during hardship, and it should be saluted on this show, and that's what I'm doing. Wilson Ritchie, every day, I watch you run your brands. I leave impressed. This dude, during the peak of COVID, turned his restaurant, the Whiskey Jar, into a freaking car wash to keep his staff members earning income and not on the soup kitchen line. You literally were going in March, April, and May to the Whiskey Jar to get your damn vehicle washed instead of eating a barbecue sandwich. And that's how the back of the house kept food on their table, their rents and mortgage paid, and earned a paycheck. Now it's a freaking whiskey club. It makes me inspired, happy, motivated, and wanting to scream it from the mountaintops of the Blue Ridge. Before we get to Manu, am I saying his name right, Judah?
I think it's Manu.
Manu? You want to take a crack on his name?
It's short for Manuel.
Manu? How about the last name? You want to take a crack on the last? Manu Delgado-Medrano.
Yeah, Delgado-Medrano.
Okay, Manu's going to join us in about 3 minutes on this program. I'm excited to welcome Manu. Carpe Jolie says on our Instagram Live, Wilson Ritchie is such a beast. He's a dynamo. Has someone tagged Wilson Ritchie? Does Wilson know I'm talking about him like this? The dude is a freaking dynamo. Wilson Ritchie has somebody at the Whiskey Jar who's so good at making pies? Wasn't it Rachel? Isn't it Rachel Wilson? She was so good at making pies at the Whiskey Jar. He's like, your pies are damn good. Let's take you from making pies at the Whiskey Jar to creating the pie chest. And that's how the pie chest was birthed on 4th Street. And now it has a industrial kitchen on High Street, multiple locations. Wilson Ritchie finds River Hawkins, who knows mezcal and tequila like the Pope knows holy water. And Wilson Ritchie says, River Hawkins, you know mezcal and tequila like Marty McFly knows DeLoreans. Let's open up a tequila and mezcal bar. And now we have the Bebedera. Look at what he did for the Alley Light. We need a speakeasy cocktail bar. We have the Alley Light. Revolutionary soup. We need a $10 and under meal option on the downtown mall. And soup, that niche is not being filled. Revolutionary soup. Bing, bam, boom. The Wine Guild. I mean, the dude, 10-course hospitality, I don't know if it's still doing it. In fact, I know it's not still doing it, was managing Commonwealth Sky Bar and Draft Tap Room before COVID. The dude has got the Midas touch. The dude has got the Midas touch. Wilson Ritchie. Tell him I said that, please. One more before we get to Manu. Staunton Mall will be destroyed. We speculated the destruction of the Staunton Mall earlier this week on the show. It's happening. The mall in Staunton going to get knocked down. All the tenants in the Staunton Mall have to vacate their storefronts by December 24th, Christmas Eve. They got a letter in the mail on November 24th that they had 30 days to get the hell out of Dodge. Dodge, the Staunton Mall. It's going to get knocked down. They're going to turn it into a mixed-use development. That's the future of Fashion Square. Fashion Scare Mall is a knockdown, mixed-use development waiting to happen. We all know it. You see it, I see it. Who's the buyer? Who's going to do it? Watch it. All them merchants out of there by December 24th. Hasta luego. Peace out, baby. We'll follow what happens in Staunton with the Staunton Mall. Vanessa Parkhill. Amen. You know what, Vanessa? I'm going to tag Wilson on this. Amen, Vanessa Parker. Vanessa Parkhill says this, Judah Wickhauer. Forget the whiskey, forget the wine club. Sign me up for the whiskey club. Amen. I'm tagging Wilson Ritchie on this right now, Vanessa. Wilson will love to hear this. Tagging him right now, VP. All right, let me reach out to Manu. We're live on Instagram, Facebook. The show is archived on every social media platform, archived anywhere you get your podcast. We reach more people with the I Love CVille network than the television news does. I want you to think about that. All right, I'm reaching out to Manu now. It's ringing. I have him on the line. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jerry. Yes, how are you?
Okay, fantastic. First, let me ask you this question. You are a very, very smart man. Can you give me an insight into your background? Give me some insight into your professional pedigree and your resume, and then we'll talk shop.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm an independent consultant in economic and financial analysis and also behavioral science. I've been doing this for a very long time. I guess there's slightly different sort of trades, but they're related as well. And I have been working primarily in real estate, transportation, urban planning for a little bit over 10 years in both the U.S. and other countries as well.
Okay, so anybody that's watching this program in real time or in evergreen form, I have a feeling you're about to get a lot smarter because of this man right here on the show. So we have a major issue here, as you know, in Charlottesville and Central Virginia from a housing crunch standpoint, from an affordability standpoint. We have very little inventory for sale. COVID is driving a lot of buyers to this market, and people are wanting to change what and how they see the house. The house is now not just a place we sleep and eat at. It's got to be a place we learn for kids. Mom and dads are doing offices and Zoom rooms there. The home and the world is changing altogether. So I'm going to start with an open-ended question for you. How do you look at the Charlottesville and Central Virginia real estate market in general? And then I want to get to specifics with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you mentioned, I think one of the critical issues that we're facing is a lot of people are moving here from other parts of the country. You know, I myself moved here from New York City a couple years ago. We wanted to live in a place that had access to nature, mountains, and a lot of people are doing that, especially now that they have the ability to work from home. So certainly that's going to push up prices further. Already we are experiencing an affordability crisis here in Charlottesville as well as the rest of the country. So certainly that new dynamic is pushing house prices even further. And as you mentioned, on the supply end, things are not changing very much. So of course, the math is very simple. You know, the supply stays the same, demand goes up. Obviously, prices will continue to experience upward pressure for a while.
Okay, I'm going to get out of your way then. How do we keep this community from turning into a playground of white, rich people? Because I see major employers like Dexcom coming to Charlottesville where they're gonna be housed at Dairy Central. They're going to bring high-dollar guys scooping up inventory. You come from New York. I got in-laws that I'm trying to persuade from Long Island to move here. They're going to sell their home in Long Island. They're going to come down here with a big bag of money. They're going to be able to buy a house that's twice the size of their home in Long Island, and they're going to be able to have $250,000 in the bank because the prices are that much cheaper than New York. You know all this stuff already. I'm going to get out of your way. How do we keep this community from turning into a white, rich playground then?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for us to really understand the broader problem. I mean, of course, I'll talk about Charlottesville in a second, but I also want to talk about the fact that we are experiencing an affordability crisis throughout the country. Wages are rising at a much slower rate than prices. At the moment, only around 50% of Americans can actually afford to buy a home. And in 70% of the country, the average American is priced out. So we are seeing essentially most Americans are not able at this point to afford to buy a place. Rent is also increasing. Homelessness is also increasing. So overall, we have to sort of focus on the fact that we have a housing problem in general. And what's at the core of that problem? You know, most people that work in this sector, we like to focus on the shortage, right? We need to build more housing, more affordable housing. We need to relieve the restrictions. And of course, we do need to do that. Most cities have a ton of restrictions in terms of land use. There's a lot of restrictions on multifamily housing. There's so many difficulties. Even we looked at building a house here in the countryside, buying a lot. There's so many restrictions to actually doing that in a way that allows more than one family, for instance, to live in that place. So certainly those are the things that we need to address. But even beyond that, one of the things that we don't consider is just the fact that there's this fundamental disconnect with the way we sort of look at land, the way we relate to land and our social goals. On the one hand, we say that we want to have affordable housing for everybody, high quality affordable housing. But on the other hand, most people embrace a system that is designed to actually increase properties for homeowners. We have all sorts of federal, local policies that actually encourage people to think of their houses as an asset that should appreciate. We think of our houses not so much as a basic human need, but as like this asset that we need to use to build wealth. And I think it's important for us to recognize that those things are incompatible. On the one hand, pushing for building wealth, increasing property prices, and on the other hand, creating affordable housing for people of different racial backgrounds, different generations as well, because that's also another thing that we need to recognize. The younger generations are having a much harder time than the previous generation. So it is a racial equity issue. It is a generational equity issue. And we certainly need to address this by changing our land use policies, really looking at local government and state government and also federal government, pushing them to relax a lot of these regulations. But at the same time, we need to ask ourselves this fundamental question that as Americans, frankly, is difficult. How do I stop seeing my house as an asset? How do I stop seeing it as something that needs to appreciate forever? Because that's no longer sustainable. We're at a point where, like I said, most Americans are priced out. So now we're actually at a point where this mechanism of building wealth through home ownership is actually getting in the way for most people to actually being able to even enter into that market. So I think we need to first acknowledge that and understand it and recognize that the way we are relating to land right now, this intention that we have, most of us have, I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to build all my equity there, and then that's going to be my retirement plan, that's fundamentally incompatible with overall affordability.
Okay, you are brilliant. Okay, this guy's a smart guy here. There's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to play devil's advocate with you for the sake of a talk show.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
Changing the mindset that your home is not the top commodity in your retirement portfolio is going to be difficult to do in this country. For
Absolutely.
so long, generations of Americans have used their home to build wealth, generational, or to build their retirement. So I think changing that mindset is going to be difficult. From my standpoint, I'm the layman, you're the expert. From my standpoint, the path to affordability and creating a world that's equitable, where young people, where people of color can enjoy the dream, American dream of buying a house, the way to do this is twofold. Way number one is doing a massive zoning change. 53% of the land in the city of Charlottesville is zoned R1 for single-family detached. That means more than half the homes in our community, the city of Charlottesville, 10.2 square miles, listeners, he already knows this, can only be one structure on a piece of land. That's concerning. The second part is also right up your alley. We must have more approachable, ubiquitous, and reliable transportation across the entire region for folks to be able to afford to live in Central Virginia. If someone cannot afford to live in the city of Charlottesville but works at UVA Hospital, they may have to go to Fluvanna County to live. What they're not realizing is the time they're spending in their car to go from Fluvanna to the city of Charlottesville for their job is eroding the margin they saved on housing. If we instead had reliable transportation, the man or the lady could save that money. So I'm going to get out of your way on those topics. Anywhere you want to go, the show is yours.
Jerry, I absolutely agree with both of those points. I absolutely agree from many different perspectives. My point is I just don't believe that's sufficient. And I do believe those are the steps we need to take in the short term. Absolutely. We need to change our zoning, our land use policies. We need to improve our transportation system. I'm a passionate transit advocate. I still do a lot of advocacy in New York City. And, as a relatively new resident here in Charlottesville, I want to get more involved in improving our public transit. I think that's absolutely part of the solution. But in the medium and long term, we're going to keep going back to this same place of shortage because land is finite. We can't create more land. So at some point, we rezone everything and we have 2-3-story buildings. We have multifamily buildings. Cities in this country are going to continue growing. And at some point, we're going to reach once again the exact same place where we are right now. So the point is, I totally understand and agree with you. It's a really difficult chip to change, right? Since the really 20s and 30s, in reality, we've had sort of this mentality of like, I'm going to build wealth through home ownership. But my point is, in the medium and long term, we need to transition out of that. We need to think about alternatives. And there are, you spoke to Susan Steimer not very long ago. You talked about shared equity housing. I really believe in separating essentially the price of land and the price of your home, separating those two things. I'm not against people owning their homes privately. I just think the fact that we own land and that we speculate on land, that we treat land as a commodity, that's what really prices people out. So I think there are solutions. There's land value taxes that we don't like to talk about because nobody likes to talk about taxes. There's ownership and usage restrictions. Like we should consider, there's a lot of places, in large cities like New York City, there's thousands of empty apartments that wealthy people, a lot of them not even Americans, purchase them. They sit there empty because they see them as an investment, as an asset. There should be restrictions to that. Because at the same time, we have like thousands of people who don't have a place to live. But we also need to think about things like shared equity housing. Right now, we think about it as a sort of like a low-income solution. But as I said, there's affordability.
What does shared equity housing mean?
Yeah, so shared equity housing is essentially, things like community land trusts. So essentially, a community land trust, like the ones we have here in Charlottesville, the Thomas Jefferson Community Land Trust. Essentially, what you do is you have an NGO that owns the land, and then they build houses, and they sell the houses to individual families, generally families of like a lower income level, but they only sell the physical structure. So they're not selling the land. The individuals are able to purchase the land at a much lower price. They're able to sell it. They're able to pass it on to their family members, but they don't own the land. And that's a qualitative difference that's really important because a physical structure, the improvements, unless you do a lot to them, are actually just going to depreciate over time. Whereas what really appreciates in real estate is the land itself because of the demographic pressures, because of the pressure that the growing population creates in the context of essentially fixed supply. So what shared equity housing does is it sort of separates the two, separates the building from the land. And like I mentioned, land value taxes essentially do the same thing. And I think ultimately, in order for us to have affordable housing in Charlottesville and the rest of the country, at some point as a society, we need to realize that we need to separate those two things, the land from the physical structure.
This guy is a smart guy. This guy has got me thinking here. Dude, you've got my brain going 1,000 miles an hour. I'm also very passionate about this topic like you are. Your passion is coming through Skype here. A devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show again.
Absolutely.
Why not just let the free market, the dynamics of a free market play out? I'm a homeowner now. I see there's an inventory crunch. I see people want to move to Central Virginia. I own a house. The value of my house is only upticking. I'll be straightforward. I'm only getting wealthier. People who have homes right now are only getting wealthier. Why don't we let the free market play out?
Well, I think there's a very strong response to that. And the fact is, when we're thinking about housing, we're not thinking about just any old commodity. We're not thinking about shirts. We're not thinking about socks. We're talking about something that is fundamental for the very existence of human life. So it is essential, fundamental good. And if we think of it as a public good, something that everybody should have access to by the very definition that we all are humans, and we deserve to have a place that we live, that we feel comfortable and safe. If we see it from that perspective, then we understand that when you subject a public good into a market, you're going to get suboptimal results, right? And just going back to the point of wealth, where does that wealth come from, Jerry? When I sit on my land, and let's say I bought a house here in Charlottesville in the 1970s or 80s, I did absolutely nothing to that land. Let's say I bought it for $100,000. Today it's worth $500,000. I did absolutely nothing to it. Who built that wealth for me? Where does that money come from? Where does that wealth being created? And the answer is the people who moved into this community that don't have a house are the ones that are literally transferring money from their hard-earned money to me as somebody who just happens to historically had a first mover advantage. So from an ethical perspective, from a moral perspective, it's actually very hard to justify, if we really think about it, profiting from the valuation in land. You're essentially appropriating the value that society is creating for you without actually having earned it.
Right. That's okay. Okay, that was a great answer right there. What about ADUs? What about like I'm gonna throw it to you. You're the pro. I'm literally learning from you, and I'm going to invite Judah. We have to invite this man back to the show many times. I mean, this man is dropping knowledge bombs here. If we have ADUs in backyards, guys, an ADU, layman's term, is like a backyard cottage or like a basement apartment is an ADU. Why don't we prioritize ADUs and create affordability by creating more density within existing structure? That would seem like a faster path to changing human and social behavior of a home is not an asset, a home is somewhere we live. ADUs, anywhere you want to go on that topic?
Absolutely. I think we really need to think about two sort of agendas. There needs to be a short-term agenda, which includes the zoning changes, changes to ADU usage, transportation, all of these restrictions. That's like ASAP short-term agenda. The other things I'm talking about are medium and long-term, but we cannot wait to begin that process because it's going to take so much time to change our chip. And you know, the other field that I work in is behavioral science, so I know how sticky behaviors and our mind frames can be. But going back to ADUs, I absolutely believe that this is a powerful tool. But we also need to not just allow us to build them, we also need to allow legally for us to be able to have other families there. You know, a lot of cities sort of create ADUs and still restrict it to single family usage. In order for this to actually be a useful tool, we need to be able to build ADUs and be able to rent that to other people who are not part of our families. That's what really is going to create more slack in the market, and I would absolutely be in favor of that.
Good stuff right here. Two more questions. Dude, you are off the charts here. Behavioral scientists here, open-ended question, anywhere you want to go. COVID-19 changing human behavior forever, potentially. Which human behaviors do you see changing potentially forever due to COVID-19? I know that's a broad question. Anywhere you want to go there.
Well, you know, I would hope that in terms of public health, we would change some behaviors permanently. You know, in
like
other
the
countries,
handshake? Do you think the handshake is gone?
Well, you know what? I hope not. Maybe not. I'm a very sort of affectionate person. I love hugging people. You know, I'm from Latin America originally, from Mexico.
Me too.
So
Cuba.
Nice. Very nice. So we hug, you know, kiss, and for me, that's a very special part of life. But at the same time, you know, things like using masks when we're sick. I think going forward, I hope that's a behavior that sticks. You see that a lot in East Asia. They've been through several pandemics of this nature, so for them, this isn't their first time around. And you see them, you know, if they get sick, it's just automatic. You put a mask on, and you're able to go about your life, but in a way that doesn't affect others. So things that sort of make us more considerate to others, I would hope stick. But I do hope that at some point, you know, we're able to, particularly once we know that it's safe, to sort of re-engage with each other in a way that's safe. But of course, always respecting each other's comfort zones.
Dude, this guy's great. Thomas Jefferson Community Land Trust, the first land trust in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I learned that from Susan Steinmart. The second one was the Mackey Walker in Richmond. The Thomas Jefferson Community Land Trust, I've said this on the show multiple times, is the best path I can see for creating affordability in Charlottesville and in Central Virginia. Anywhere you want to go on the land trust, the show is yours.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in this model. You know, I think it's a brilliant solution. I'm really excited about the work that Susan and others are doing. The biggest thing that I would ask from this sector is I want to expand this vision so that we don't think about it just as a solution for lower income people. For me, my dream would be that community land trusts become the norm, because let's be honest, Jerry, people in New York City are earning six figures and they're still priced out. People in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and pretty soon here as well. So we need to realize that this is not a low-income problem. We should certainly help low-income people first, and I applaud the efforts of Thomas Jefferson and other community land trusts, but we also need to push ourselves to think of this model as something that should be the norm for all of us. And this goes hand in hand with beginning to think of land as something totally different than an asset. And I'll say a last thing about that, because I understand why. You know, when you look at a country like Germany, 70% of Germans never purchase a home. And that, to us as Americans, is shocking, right? We know that Germany is a rich country. And so we need to ask ourselves, why are we all scrambling to build wealth in the first place, right? When other rich countries are not. And the reason is, in many ways in this country, the decision we've made as a society is to leave people to their own devices, right? There isn't a very robust social safety network. We don't have, universal health care. Education is very expensive. So the transitioning out of seeing land as an asset will only happen if we also address these broader issues, that have to do with healthcare, education, retirement. If we don't create robust systems for people, then of course it's only rational for us to want to build wealth in whatever way we can. And for most of us in this country, the easiest way is to purchase a home, if you're lucky enough to be able to do it.
Dude, you got me thinking so much. This is the problem, though. As Americans, and I hate to say this, but it's true. Americans are out for their own. It's a dog-eat-dog world. It's very much Darwinism, survival of the fittest here in America. And we're out for our own in this capitalistic mentality. I agree with absolutely everything you said, 100% of what you said. And I learned from you. How are you going to change this capitalistic, dog-eat-dog, survival of the fittest mentality? Because that's the essence of what you're talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm really hopeful because I know that the mentality that we have right now is a culture that we've built over 200 years. And maybe longer than that, because a lot of this we inherit from a British tradition, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, this was a culture that was built over time. It's not inherently a part of us as humans. It's not inherently a part of us as Americans. It's simply something that we've created, that we keep nurturing, and that we keep transmitting to our children. But there is a possibility for us to change. In some ways, you can think of it as a bad habit. And there is a way for us to overcome bad habits. It is very difficult, but, having conversations like this is the first step, recognizing the fact that the way that we live in this country is not sustainable. And the fact that now the vast majority of Americans are not benefiting from it is something that we need to understand. And if we talk about, from a perspective of equity, other disadvantaged minority groups in this country have been experiencing this the whole time. It's just now that, it's getting really interesting because now it's actually affecting white middle-class people as well.
There you go.
And for better or for worse, that really opens the door for us to really reconsider everything. And I really hope and I really encourage others to start questioning a lot of these sort of paradigms that we've inherited, and we treat them sort of as these untouchable, unchangeable things. But they're just simply not sustainable anymore.
I'm sincerely mean what I'm about to say. We do like 15 hours of live program every week. We've been doing this for like close to 3 years. This is one of the best interviews we have ever done. This guy just made everyone that listened to this program today and in the future so much smarter. Can we reach out to you again to come back on the show?
Absolutely. I would love that.
Hey, you are A+ people. Thank you for coming on the program. I mean that sincerely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and thank you for giving me the opportunity, Jerry.
It was truly our pleasure. It was our pleasure. You have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Too.
Dude, that guy is amazing. Judah, we need to let's save his email address. We need to welcome him to the show again, please. Let's save that man's email address. I agree with absolutely everything that man just said. I think changing human and social behavior is going to take generations, and the change of social and human behavior that he's referencing is changing Americans and how we see our homes. I look at my crib as a way to build bank. You look at your crib as a way to build bank as well. He's saying we have to change that mindset if we're going to get to an equitable culture and society. Now, imagine a world like this in Charlottesville. Let's go super micro. Super micro, and how we go super micro is looking at Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Here's the conundrum we're in. Charlottesville City's 10.2 square miles. There's no more land coming to a 10.2 square mile city. You have the University of Virginia here. Often the 4 best years of our lives are college. You have major employers trying to cherry pick and poach the talent coming out of UVA, so they're setting up satellite shops or auxiliary offices around UVA to cherry pick that talent and then to funnel that talent into a business that's in the city of Charlottesville. Look at what Joffrey Woodruff's doing. Joffrey Woodruff runs the most financially wealthy hedge fund in the city of Charlottesville, QIM, Joffrey Woodruff. Joffrey Woodruff donated $125 million to the University of Virginia to create a data science school. Why did Joffrey do this? Why did he donate $125 million of his money to create a data science school at UVA? Well, guess what? His hedge fund uses data science to make money for its investors. So look at what Joffrey's done. Powerful hedge fund owner buys the Charlottesville Ice Park, takes the ice park and turns it into the center of developing entrepreneurs. The acronym, CODE. It's going to be the CODE building. He takes the data science and the $125 million school he created, and he has students learning data science and becoming experts in the field. They matriculate from the $125 million data science school at UVA to his building on the downtown mall, CODE. When they go from the data science building and the data science school at UVA to his business, his hedge fund, QIM, in CODE, they stay in the community. And just like that, you have more people in Charlottesville that are living in the community and driving up the cost of living. Imagine a world where 53% of the city of Charlottesville is zoned for single-family R1. Imagine a world where that zoning is changed. Imagine a world where the zoning is loosened and you can build dense housing on R1 parcels. Imagine a world where a cottage in the backyard or a basement apartment, an auxiliary dwelling unit, is more accepted, more welcomed, and more allowed. Imagine a world where transportation is ubiquitous, approachable, affordable, and reliable. You can get on a bus in Fluvanna, and you can get to your job at UVA Hospital at 9 a.m. And you can count on getting to UVA Hospital at 9 a.m. 5 days a week. Until we get a massive zoning change, until we get ADUs becoming much more of a priority, until we get more reliable, ubiquitous, approachable, and affordable transportation across the entire region, you will still be left with a community that is extremely expensive to live. There are more people coming to Charlottesville with high-dollar checks than ever before, and that's a fact. If we don't do something about it, you're going to be left with a white, rich playground. And that's not what we want for our home. That's not what I want for my kid to grow up in. That's for damn sure. Reliable transportation, a massive zoning change, a prioritization on ADUs, and what Manu said was a mindset that needs to change where the home is not your number one generator for wealth. The mindset change is going to be tough. But the zoning change, the ADU change, and the transportation reliability is very possible. And then you got this thing called the Thomas Jefferson Community Land Trust that is really making big-time moves. They own the land. They sell the structure. It's brilliant. It's how you create affordability. We'll welcome him back, Judah. He was A-plus people. Thank you for joining us on the program. A couple items I want to get out of the notebook, then we'll get to your comments. I see them coming in. Quickly, it looks like Richmond City schools are going to go virtual throughout the school year. The superintendent of Richmond City Schools said yesterday, look, it's my recommendation that in the entire school year, including the spring second semester, we need to go virtual. We'll see how that impacts other school systems with their decision making. Now, I was wondering this, and then I read a story about it today. Virtual learning. How hard is it to learn virtually? I am ADHD. I did extremely well in school. I got into the University of Virginia early admission. I've been taking the SATs since I was in 7th grade because my brother and I qualified for a program where they test us with the PSATs, okay? But one of the reasons I was able to post high marks in school is because I had a small teacher-student ratio, a very favorable teacher-student ratio at Walsingham Academy in Williamsburg, Virginia. If it wasn't for in-person learning and a very favorable student-teacher ratio, I probably would have struggled in school because I was easily distracted. The teachers were able to keep me focused and to harness the God-given ability, so I posted good marks. If it wasn't for the teachers harnessing that focus, I would have done poorly. So it got me thinking, what are students doing from a grade standpoint now that they don't have Mrs. Morris or Mr. Gillespie or Mrs. Myers or Mr. Myers or Mrs. Peterson or Miss Pearson or Miss Epstein or Miss Jackson looking over Jerry Jr.'s shoulder to make sure he does his calculus homework on time? Well, I did some research and I came across Montgomery County, Virginia. And at Montgomery County, Virginia, get the headline on screen. Grades are struggling. Students are struggling with their grades. So much so, I have statistics for you. The number of D's and F's in Montgomery County, Virginia, amongst 6th grade through 12th grade went up dramatically in virtual learning. You want to know how much? I'm about to tell you. 2019, first semester, versus 2020, first semester. In-person versus virtual learning in Montgomery County, Virginia. In 2020, amongst 6th grade through 12th grade, there were 19% more D's, as in dog. You want to know how many more F's amongst 6th grade through 12th grade, in-person versus virtual? 151% more F's, as in Frank, in Montgomery County, Virginia, because of virtual learning. D's went up 19%. F's went up 151% because of virtual learning. 151%. We talk about safety. We talk about keeping our kids safe, healthy. We talk about preventing COVID from spreading in classrooms. When are we going to talk about the fact that in Montgomery County, Virginia, 6th grade through 12th graders, D's went up 19% and F's went up 151%. You can do the research. It's in the Roanoke Times today. Look it up. Go to roanoke.com. Read the same article I'm reading. We talk about health, but we don't talk about the long-term ramifications of bad grades and what it's going to do to future generations from a reading, writing, learning, and human connection and interaction standpoint. Let's talk more about that. Please. do a real estate spotlight before we get to sports. The old Bluegrass Grill location is for rent. 2,950 square feet, roughly 2,000 square feet. Excuse me, $2,950 per month rent. $2,950 per month rent. The square feet is roughly 2,000. Bluegrass Grill for rent. Oliver Kootner, the owner of this particular property. Dude, when this restaurant was open, it was crushing it. People were waiting in the parking lot. The line was out the door. They made bank. I mean, bank for a restaurant. Bank for a restaurant. That's what I mean. Bank for a restaurant. 2,000 square feet, just under $3,000 a month. The old Bluegrass Grill location, now open for rent. Every single show, we relay a piece of real estate to you that we think has some appeal from a residential or commercial standpoint. A couple more items in the notebook. Augusta County, Virginia, is delaying winter sports. The other side of the mountain, Augusta County is not going to start winter sports until January, and it's already made note that it could start them even later if COVID cases continue to surge. Winter sports are in a very precarious position right now. The Virginia High School League is changing decision-making it made a couple weeks ago. Lacrosse, boys and girls lacrosse at the high school level. The Virginia High School League, the governing body of sports at the public school level in Virginia. 2 weeks ago, the Virginia High School League said no face-offs and no body checking in lacrosse. Too dangerous. Spreads COVID. Yesterday, the Virginia High School League said we made a mistake. We're going to allow face-offs and body checking again. So if you're a fan of lacrosse at the high school level, you're smiling over that announcement. Boston College travels to UVA. The Wahoos are a 4-point favorite, 3:30 kickoff, ESPN3. Boston College is 6-4, UVA is 4-4 overall. Second to last game of the season for Bronco Mendenhall and the Wahoo football team. They have a chance to finish 6-4. Vegas has UVA as a 4-point favorite. Clemson is at Virginia Tech on Saturday. It's the marquee matchup on the ACC network. The Tigers are 8-1. The Hokies are 4-5. Clemson is a 22-point favorite. Show them how they can save $288, Judah, on Ting Fiber Internet only through iloveseville.ting.com. Can you save $288 and get the best internet possible? And that's Ting Fiber Internet. It's the internet we use to power this program. It's the best of the best. Ting Fiber Internet, iloveseville.ting.com. That man's name is Judah Wickhauer. He and I have been working together for over 8 years. He's the director of the program. He's a standout guy. My name is Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille show where we showcase the best of Charlottesville, Virginia. We don't focus on negativity. We focus on positivity. We're cautious optimists, and we try to use this platform to be agents of positive change in our community. If you like this show, we think you will love the I Love CVille Daily Digest. It's the entire show in 5 minutes or less, 5 days a week, at 5 o'clock on the I Love CVille network, the I Love CVille Daily Digest. Tune in at 5 p.m. My name is Jerry Miller. Now more than ever, wear your mask, social distance, but support your local brethren. Support the folks in the community that need the help more than ever. If you want this world to be eclectic, robust, and diverse with its offerings, we need to get off our butts and go support people. Because if we don't want an eclectic world, or if we're not willing to support them, we're about to live in a society that is made up of Amazon, Walmart, Costco, Target, and 1 or 2 other big box retailers. And guess what? I don't want that world. I don't want that world of 5 big box brands servicing us, and that's it, because everybody else shuttered due to COVID-19. Keep it from happening and support your local merchants. I'm Jerry Miller. I'm out of here. Good show. Good job, Judah.